It's Virtual NAMM 2021 at geekazine.com. Continuing coverage of NAMM 2021 Virtual. Jeffrey Powers here. I'm here with Thomas. Thomas is with the Bluetooth Midi group, and that's at what CME is the website, cmepro.com, correct?
That is correct. Yes, I work for a company called CME, which stands for Creative Music Engineering, and we utilize Bluetooth Midi technology.
Okay, and so what's your role there? And let's get into what Bluetooth Midi is all about.
Okay, well, my role is to manage the community, do the marketing, and also seek partnership to implement our specific Bluetooth Midi technology with other industry partners, and mainly in the musical instruments market.
Okay. So in this last year, it's actually been pretty busy there, right? I mean, with Bluetooth 5 becoming a regular standard and everything like that, how's that been changing for you guys?
Well, we as CME have been into wireless MIDI, which is more general. You can utilize also Wi-Fi solutions and stuff like that for about 15 years. We've launched several products, and with the arrival of Bluetooth 5, our community requested to refresh our products and then implement the Bluetooth 5 technology because of its performance and also the expandability of this technology for the future. So that's why in 2020 we launched a concept called WIDI Master. And it's this small, tiny Bluetooth MIDI adapter, which connects with a 5-pin DIN MIDI connector. And with this device, you can add Bluetooth MIDI to almost any MIDI instrument, like a vintage synthesizer, but also electronic wind instruments and similar musical instruments.
Okay. What's the latency like on having something like that?
We can reduce the latency between two WIDI devices to as low as 3 milliseconds. But when we talk about latency, we have to keep in mind that there's an average. So we can do between 5 and 6 milliseconds with a stable jitter. And jitter is more concerning the variation of latency. So it has to be stable because for a musician, it's important that the latency is consistent. Yeah. Because too much fluctuation in latency is really hard to play. And this also goes, the jitter metric is very important for sequences like drum computers and similar. Yes, that's what we are doing with Bluetooth Midi at this moment.
Okay, and you have the Bluetooth Midi, but you also have 3 versions of the Bluetooth Midi, correct? You have that little dongle and then a couple boxes.
Yes, so I can explain a bit. So this is the 5-pin MIDI DIN has been around for I think early 80s when the MIDI protocol was launched. Yeah. So when you buy an old vintage synth like the Roland Juno 60 or something similar, then you can use 5-pin MIDI DIN. So you can add Bluetooth MIDI to many traditional devices. But lately, I think in the last decade, the MIDI protocol used also different connection types. So we have like TRS 2.5 or this DIN 6 cable. So that's why we came up with a second product, which is called the WIDI jack. So this has different cable options. So it's more like a tiny interface compared to the WIDI Master being really an adapter. There are 2 things I like to explain. One is this WIDI Master attracts its power from the device you attach it to. So it's powered by the MIDI out of the instrument. And for some devices, you can also only use this separate large connector. Secondly, this means that there are instruments on the market who don't provide this power. So that's why also we came up with the WIDI jack, which has a tiny, I have to search for it, USB-C port where you can add an external power supply. So this way you can power it up via a USB power bank or similar. And then it also will work on unpowered MIDI ports, as we like to call it. And you can use TRS MIDI and DIN6 MIDI. And especially TRS MIDI is interesting because it's used in many guitar pedals.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've had many keyboards where you have to plug in the power to use the MIDI back and forth. You said in the dual plug one, you have the longer version and the shorter version. So it doesn't matter if it's in or out at that point, or wherever the power is.
Yes. So according to the MIDI Association standards, that's the institute. Institute that decides what the MIDI standards are. The power on MIDI ports comes from the MIDI out. So the large connector has all the technology in it, and this one is connected to the MIDI out of your device. The small one has no other function than to connect the MIDI in as well. And if you add that, you have, as we call it, bidirectional communication.
Yeah, and they need to be plugged into each other for both of them to work.
So what you do, this is a 2.5 TRS, and then you can connect it. So this one can be used as standalone. This one will not function without the big one. We made it detachable because our community actually requested for instruments like guitars or electronic wind instruments that only have a MIDI out and are carried on stage or similar, to not have this one bungling around when it's not connected.
Yeah.
So that's why we made it detachable. So with this one, you can utilize MIDI out to any other BLE MIDI device or mobile devices or operating systems that have Bluetooth MIDI integrated, like iOS, and of course to other WIDI devices.
Yeah.
So the idea is you have one WIDI master or WIDI jack to add the Bluetooth MIDI layer to your existing device. If you want to communicate with your mobile device, for instance, then you only need this one. Because in Apple, it's integrated Bluetooth MIDI.
Yeah, and you guys have been working really hard to get the integration with, is it just with Apple or is it across the board?
Well, this is not something that is specifically done by CME. It's done by the MIDI Association. Bluetooth MIDI originally was designed by Apple itself.
Oh, okay.
And then when it was made into a standard by the MIDI Association, like the smart engineers of big musical instrument developers like Yamaha or Roland, and also Rowley and CME worked on standardizing the Bluetooth MIDI protocol, Bluetooth MIDI solution, to make it available to any manufacturer.
Okay. And we're also talking, more than just music. I mean, lighting is now starting to become MIDI controlled, and other things. And I know we talk on a daily basis about using programs to control everything with MIDI.
Yes.
So it's fully compatible across the board on that way, right?
Yes, so there are many other forms that use MIDI as a protocol. Like historically, because MIDI has been around since the beginning of the 80s, it's not a particularly demanding protocol. It's quite simple, yet very sophisticated, and there's good reasons why it's has been along for so long at this stage. At this point, the MIDI Association is working on an advanced protocol, which is more with a higher resolution, which we call MIDI 2.0.
Okay.
But that has still a long way to go. What can be done with Bluetooth MIDI is you can literally implement a Bluetooth chip at the Bluetooth MIDI firmware, and you can make a controller out of anything. And controlling can be done like musical notes, but it can also control lights. Or anything else. There are quite some good videos recently released by the Media Association, which tell about the history of Bluetooth MIDI, where you can see that it's integrated in cabs. That you can just push buttons on your cap and trigger sounds in pizza boxes and stuff like that. It's really great.
Yeah, and I've been revisiting my MIDI devices, and of course, because now I have some Bluetooth devices, lighting wise, that I want to start thinking about connecting up via MIDI. Because being a drummer, I'm already using all my limbs, and the less I have to do to switch, the better. So that's where I'm going with that, and just amazing stuff there. So I can't wait for MIDI 2.0. That's what you called it, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I can't wait for that to really come out and explode there. So are you expecting that within the next year, or is that a longer term?
Well, I'm not part of the group who develops MIDI 2.0, but I can tell you that it's quite complex to make it a standard. Okay. So what is the challenge at this stage, as far as my knowledge goes, with MIDI 2.0, is that on a traditional 5-pin DIN, it will not work. So it's now on paper actually made for USB MIDI, which is more capable of handling such high resolution MIDI, as I call it.
Okay.
So before we are at a stage that it can be implemented in all devices, all computers and stuff, it takes a long time, because it's of no use to roll out a solution when your DAW or your iOS device cannot implement it. Yeah. So we need to work with the Apples and the Googles and also Microsofts, and they have totally different priorities than MIDI 2.0.
What? That's crazy. What?
Yeah, I don't know why. What is shown now from MIDI 2.0 is just a small piece.
Okay.
And I think that it can take more than a year before it's actually implemented in the first devices. And from there, it will grow.
Okay.
So the MIDI market, if you take into account MIDI 2.0, the MPE, which is MIDI polyphonic expression, you've seen that maybe also, and Bluetooth MIDI, then it's going to be an exciting 5 years.
Good. One more question, and that is, right now, what are we talking for latency between devices? What's the best latency option or scenario?
Well, between two WIDI devices, we can reduce it, a best case scenario, 3 milliseconds.
3 milliseconds, that's pretty good.
Yeah, that's good that's inaudible.
Yeah.
But this is a debate when innovating technology. It's not as fast as a cable.
Yeah, that's true. So that's straight up connection. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's entirely true. But with a cable, it's quite hard to get it connected to your iPhone.
Agreed.
So with Bluetooth MIDI, you can use this one and you can connect it to your iPhone.
Yeah.
The limitations of Bluetooth MIDI are mostly in this more consumer grade solutions. So the latency performance between a WIDI master and an iPhone is less because of the architecture of an iPhone. And this is a more complex technical story, but as you might understand, an iPhone has to do a lot more than MIDI.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of prioritizing, and as you can imagine, Apple is more focused on audio over Bluetooth.
Yeah,
which
absolutely.
Many people know experiences seconds of latency. you know. So and that's their priority. And it's perfectly understandable.
Oh yeah,
But
absolutely.
but what we are talking about is to bypass those limitations with our future product, which is called the U-host. So then you can add it to your iOS, but also your Mac OS or your Windows computer or Chrome OS, Linux, and then you can just connect to WIDI interfaces or adapters, and then they can reach that 3 milliseconds latency performance.
That's awesome.
Best case.
Well, we're getting close to time here, so these are relatively inexpensive to purchase, right? They're about what, $59 for these
yes.
boxes.
Pricing is always a personal thing. So if you compare it again to a MIDI cable, which you can get for $10, I think that's maybe much less. I know. Then it's expensive. But if you know what WIDI can do, and we are just at the beginning, then $59 is a great solution to go wireless. We recently updated our latest firmware, which allows 5 devices, WIDI devices, in one network.
Wow.
So you can create 1 to 4 as a central and 4 peripherals to communicate bidirectionally. So you have, as we call it, a MIDI through functionality, and the other way around, 4 to 1 as a MIDI merge. It's important to know that the peripherals itself cannot communicate to each other. So it's always with one central.
Okay. So, good to know. So, all right. Well, like I said, we're running out of time here. So, where do people go for more information?
We have a dedicated URL, which is called www.bluetoothmidi.com. This will end up in our introductory page about Bluetooth MIDI technology. You can learn more there about Bluetooth MIDI in general, but also the specific application of our WIDI technology. So you can see there how to connect it to iOS, to Windows, to devices, and then you go to our products. It's also on the same page. And then you can just learn more about the technology and especially what it can do for you.
Okay, perfect. Well, Thomas, thank you very much for your time. I'm definitely going to be looking more into the WIDI and get one in shop here and test it out and go from there. So, thanks again. You have a great NAMM, and we'll talk to you in the future here. Okay, thank you very much. Thanks a lot for watching this video by Geekazine. If you're over on geekazine.com or youtube.com/Geekazine. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, hit the bell notification so you know when the next video comes out. Until next time, you guys geek out and take care.